Hey guys, welcome back. If you haven't seen the previous videos, this is a customer built car. I'm just going to be going over some of the general stuff I'm doing and what we have left. Alright, so since the last video, I've gotten a lot done in the engine bay. Oil catch can here. I custom built this catch can. In this area, since the ABS module was moved over to here, it was just kind of void. So I wanted to kind of fill the area. I didn't want to do too small of a catch can. So I feel like that would have looked weird. So I went with a little bit bigger, holds more fluid, and it just fills the area a lot better. So it just makes it look more complete. Got a custom power steering reservoir. Everything's all powder coated now. All the power steering system is done. Got oil cooler there. And I mounted a custom bracket all up in there. Yeah, so oil cooler fit really well actually. Got that to fit great. Got it to trim the splash shield, no big deal. Moved the horns down to here on the sides. Obviously from the factory they're mounted up here. I didn't just want to leave one, up there, because not only is that massive horn that blocks airflow, but it just would have looked off without the other horn there. So just moved them down to the sides. Got the ID 1300cc injectors in. This fuel rail gonna have to modify slightly, not a big deal. Kind of circle back around to that. Exhaust is all the way done. Around to the back here. Look at it. So the rear, it's a 4-inch muffler, and I custom built this whole exhaust. It's all stainless steel. Can't see. Let me turn my light around so I can see it better. But it is a stainless steel exhaust, 16 gauge piping. Just kind of turn it around here. We can see. Yeah, so 3.5 inch, and then it goes into 4-inch muffler. So the last section, muffler section, is actually 4-inch. Did not do any resonators on this one. Just straight 3.5 inch exhaust. Got flex pipe down there, the screamer pipe. Kind of see underneath here. Bunch of lines going on down there. We'll go back to that also. Borgwarner EFR 8374 turbo. Got a high amp alternator, 200 amp alternator. Got all the fans are on. Obviously a coil rad radiator, aluminum radiator. Actually went ahead and painted the fan blades. Just from the factory, they have, they have that nasty yellow plastic. They just look kind of weird because you're gonna see, you're standing over here. You see the fans, obviously. All the water lines are done for the turbo. All of the oil lines are done. Last video, I kind of went over how the system flows, but basically this is your return, pulling, cooling out. Coolant's coming up from here. Water line is down there. This is water line right here coming in. So this is cold, not, obviously. So this is the incoming coolant coming in, going out. The bracket for the oil line there. So with any line and stuff, I always make sure it's secured It's the number one failure of a line when it's going to vibrate. It's going to, you know, snap at the crimp. So I always just secure all lines, helps them last longer, and that way you don't have any problems. You definitely don't want the line to break. You get oil everywhere and or coolant. You don't want to be stranded on the track or inside the road. Alright, so power steering setup. So this spa manifold, like I said multiple times. The only real issue I had with this manifold, I mean, there's a few little ones, but really the where it sits so low, it gets a little challenging with your power steering. I got it all done now, obviously, but I had to get a 90 fitting here. I actually had to trim the top of the fitting down just to get it to fit, just to clear the throttle body. But if they would have had this higher, which you can, you know, like you can actually run these up to about here without any issues with the hood. So that would have been nice if they would have had this a little bit higher, but I got it to work good. Should be solid. This AC compressor down there, obviously yet to wire, so that's actually going to be I'm going to be doing the engine harness here soon. Just waiting for a few more connectors, and then we have fuel pressure regulator. I always like to have an actual gauge on here. I will be installing a electronic fuel pressure sensor so we can see it in the software. But it's just nice to see, because sometimes you can get issues with, you know, it's an electronic sensor. Sometimes they have problems. So I just like to also have a mechanical gauge so I can really actually see the pressure. And you always want to make sure, don't ever use a cheap one. Something that you don't want to go cheap on. Air motive is what I always like to use. Another thing, so the idle air control valve, I had to make a custom plate. It was just a 3/8 aluminum plate that I welded to the bottom of the intake manifold. Obviously had to drill a hole for the air to flow through. But that is a Hitachi idle air control valve, so it's a good name brand air control valve, and I've used that in the past on my car, and they actually can tune them really well. That's why I went with that on this one. Plus, you know, you can mount it basically anywhere. And for this setup, along with mine, which if you haven't heard, my other car was in a front end collision, so the engine's chilling over there. I have another car, I gotta put all this stuff in. It's outside, sitting with the cover on it. But maybe after I get this car done, pull it in, wrap it up real quick. I also had to release cable. The old one was just super rusted. So definitely wasn't gonna do all this stuff and then have a hood cable snap. So put a new one in. But yeah, looking good though. I mean, this car looks great. Let's get a full view of it here. Looking good. I can't wait to hear. Oh, and then also it has, if you haven't been watching the other videos, but it has 276 cams. So I'm excited to hear how this exhaust sounds after I tune it and everything. We'll talk about the fuel rail real fast. So on this side, I'm going to be doing, which I actually got the majority of the fuel system parts in. I'm waiting for the fuel pump hanger, but it's actually they just got done making it. It's a custom CNC hanger. So on this side, Also, I got the oil dipstick obviously done. I had to tweak that around. She clears great now. So for here, obviously I can't. So this is a spa fuel rail that comes with this manifold. It's a good fuel rail. However, it is a little long, and I feel like this rail is for the older style GEs that are not VVTi, because these need to be trimmed for sure. So this fuel rail should be coming out to about here. This is basically how it'll be. So it'll come straight down, and then I'll have probably a 45 or like a 30-degree angle on that side. Plus I have to trim this down, retap it. Not a big problem. Same thing back here. It's just out a little too far. This will be more of a high flow fitting back here, but still same thing. I want it to come back here, not so close to the firewall. Another thing on this intake manifold, this had to be trimmed. And another reason why I think this is probably a GE non-VVTi manifold is because there's no cutout for the sensor right here, which is also not a big deal. You just have to file some stuff down. So I'm just test fitting this manifold again. I just got the idle air control valve mounted underneath. Let's see if I can find it right here. See it down there. But I want to get this all snugged up. I'm not putting the gasket in yet because I still got to do the wire harness. But I was mounting it, you know, all the way, and as you can see here, so it fits up tight on that side. Did have to remount these holes a bit just because they weren't. But so let me see if I can get in. Hold on. So right there, right where the cam position sensor goes, it's actually hitting. So I'm gonna have to take some material off of there just to get to fit snug. But yeah, like I was saying before in the previous video, you know, the overall quality of these manifolds are good, but they do need a little bit of help just to get them to mate how they should. But I'll go underneath the car here soon, just kind of show you all the lines going on. But so here's the oil catch can, that dipstick in here, you know, so you can check the fluid level and whatnot. But yeah, so this I custom made. You can buy catch cans for in this corner. They use, you know, like your regular cone filters, small ones, which I just don't like how those look. I like the cleaner look of a panel type filter. That's what I did there. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, so the power steering cooler there. Clamped here, custom, I mean, so all these brackets and stuff that you'll see, I make all these. Still waiting on another, just a hose separator, mount it back there before I clamp it further on the inside. Yeah, and this power steering reservoir, it is internally baffled. And also it has a breather on the inside of the tank versus the cap. So if you look back here, there's a tiny little hole. You can see it, little hole right there. That's actually where air pressure is gonna release from the system, not through the cap. You know, it's a normal hydraulic system, so it has to be, it can't build pressure in there, is what I'm saying. So it has to have a breather. That's why that's there. So we'll go underneath the car real fast. Oh, actually, so also, here, let me put that guy down. So this is going to be coming off here anyways when I set up the tune. I don't have it bolted down yet. So these are R35 ignition coils. This is a kit you can buy online. It's got a nice CNC plate that mounts to the head in there. So these actually fit great. There's been a lot of, I've heard some people say they don't like the R35 coils. They say they're overpriced. I think they're fine. The only thing with these, if you run these, you gotta trim the back of this. Normally this is coming down. So all I did was just trim this back. Let's see. Yeah, so like the brake lines and stuff, that's honestly like the last thing I do. You know, once all the wiring's done. And then honestly, I normally start the engine before I even do the brake system. Still have to finish up some little small suspension parts, but also that's kind of a thing I do last. But you can see here, like I have to adjust, you know, camber, caster angles off, so that's why this is so close to the sway bar, just because it needs to be back more. But I mean, nothing's adjusted yet anyways, so I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, so obviously this AC line does not go there. It goes in there, but this will be installed. I do have to take the intake manifold off one more time for when I do the wire harness. So when this comes off one more time, you know, the gasket will be in place and then AC lines will be hooked up. But kind of look down there, see everything down there. Yes, AC compressor down there, everything's all bolted up. Everything fit really well. If you have an IS, you know how tight these front ends are. I don't mind it, but they can get a little tight when you have to change a belt. Not that big of a deal though. Waiting on the silicone heater hoses. Also I don't even install those until I do the wire harness, which I'll be doing, like I said, here soon. I'm going to be mounting the ECU and the glove box. That's honestly like the next thing that I'm working on now. So I'll build a bracket for it, mount it in the car. I'll be running the relay boxes of the trunk, all that fun stuff. But we got ECU and everything in there. Go underneath the car. Kind of check some stuff out here. Trying to do my best. All right, so there's the exhaust from a better angle. This car has a T56 transmission, a 3.5-inch drive shaft, aluminum drive shaft. So there's the water line from the turbo, return line, water line. Oh, let's see. Wastegate. So here, so this pipe, the heater hose pipe, I welded a 4AN bung on there, and then that's gonna be cooling the water-cooled wastegate, tile wastegate. And it goes back around. Yeah, so these are clamps I was talking about. The clamp over there. I also did a thermal sleeve on that oil feed line, just because it gets a little close to the exhaust manifold, but that sleeve is rated for 1800 degrees, so definitely not worried about it anymore. Let's see, I'm trying, it's really hard to record under here. So here's underneath, so we got idle air control valve under the intake manifold there. Power steering. So this fitting here, M17 by 1.5 pitch. You can actually order these off of Drift Motion. They have them. This is the return line from the power steering that's going to the cooler, and then it goes through the cooler back to the reservoir up there. Water line. See the bracket. So I got a bracket here holding water line and oil line, but nothing's touching. No lines touch anything. To keep it nice and solid. Let's see here. Got some new tie rods on there. Boots. New tie rod and boot over there. Yeah, so all the factory fuel lines, all that shit comes off, and then I do. It'll have a ethanol sensor underneath there, just like it did on my car, and then it'll have a feed and a return line. These systems from the factory. You get up here real fast. These fuel systems from the factory are a non-return, and that really limits your flow that you can produce to injectors. So your best bet is just to convert it, to a normal system where it has a feed line and then a return line, which is what I'm doing here. Yeah, once I get all that stuff done too, I'll make another video on that. Looks super clean. The white and black looks super clean. Yeah, so we got a lot of stuff going on here. So for the fuel system, like I was saying, I'll be going over that more after I do it, in the next video. But running 2 Walbro 485 pumps in there. One of these relays is going to be the relay for the pumps, and then the circuit breaker. It's just something else. Yeah, I got basically all the fuel system stuff I need in here. It's actually for the wire harness. I'm going to be doing, this is the got a GM flex fuel sensor right here. Sensor will be mounting the fuel bypass module, which will be mounted down there, like I was saying previously. So essentially you cannot just run full pressure through these sensors because they'll get damaged really quick. Yeah, got all the fuel system stuff, minus the fuel pump hanger. Should be here, like, honestly, probably in the next few days. And then I'll go over all that when I do it. The stuff that's really left is just the wiring, which wiring goes pretty quick because there's not too much going on here. And then, like I was saying, the relay boxes will be moved in the back, which I just have to re-lay out the harness. Yeah, I mean, really, the engine bay is done. All the, like, hard stuff is done. So now it's just all, you know, like the little finishing touches, you know, like vacuum lines, which those go quick. Essentially all the rest of the stuff goes pretty quick. So I got set back on my timeline just a little bit, mainly just because of the holidays and all that. It's had a lot. I have a relatively big family, so holidays is always like, yeah, my wife and I are always running around all over the place, but getting close. Majority of the mechanical stuff is all done. The engine bay is basically all wrapped up. So getting to the point where it's just the small stuff, fun stuff, like for me is the wiring. I do enjoy wiring. It's not, I'm not just saying that to be sarcastic, but I do enjoy wiring. So that stuff will be fun. And then the tuning, I also love that. That's probably the best part after you get all this stuff done. And then you get to tune it and see how it runs. That's another fun part too. But almost to that point, I'm happy with how it's going. Get it done as soon as possible. The way it seems, I should be done here soon. We just have to see how everything goes, right? It's all, majority of this stuff is all custom work. And if you've ever done custom work, you know how it can go sometimes. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.